Behavioral Economics and Translational Research, presented by Hunsinger-Harris, PA620. Behavior analysis has a wide breadth of application and defining features, not the least of which incorporates both experimental and the applied application of the principles of behavior. Rigorous and formal experimental manipulations and the adherence to scientific tactics and assumptions have been integral in getting the field to where it is today. Subsequent to the beginnings of behaviorism came the study of the experimental analysis of behavior, useful in its ability to advance the understanding of knowledge of behavior. The experimental study of behavior allows for the researcher to conduct inductive research, whereby he does not need to consider social applicability of the outcomes when conducting the research. The main goal is to look at all possible variables and all possible behaviors. The experimental analysis of behavior led directly to the study of the application of outcomes, applied behavior analysis. Pursuing a science of socially important behavior changes has been the goal of the field of applied behavior analysis, with the focus directly on looking at variables that are effective at improving behavior. To bridge the gap and develop a relationship between the two research applications, translational research emerged. Translational research melds together the two fields of study in the context of utilizing the important basic findings and directly exploring them in the applied realm. Translational research is the direct application of basic research outcomes to the applied and socially significant world around us. The importance of translational research can be seen in the complementary way it connects the two areas of study and is seen as a valuable area of study in and of itself. One such area of translational research that has gained momentum over the past decades is the study of behavioral economics, which has its roots grounded in the basic laboratory research, yet made the leap over to the applied world through translational studies. Behavioral economics is the study of decision-making under four main categories: demand function, reinforcer competition, open and closed economies, and delay discounting. All four areas of study within behavioral economics combine the study of the science of behavior with the study of the principles of economics. Reed, in 2013, stated, "Organisms do not always make decisions that maximize their long-term gain. Behavioral economics seeks to study why this occurs and how to mitigate for these behavioral choices among various organisms." Racklin and Green conducted an investigation to determine how commitment factors into self-control and impulsive behaviors, and if a reversal in commitment would occur as time passed. While studying pigeons, the authors recorded how their responses were allocated between two choices with differing outcomes over time. The results indicated that in the presence of a smaller, more immediate reinforcer, the pigeons would almost exclusively choose this option. But as the delay to gain access to the reinforcer increased in the smaller, more immediate reinforcer, the pigeons tended to switch their commitment to the behavior that gained them access to the larger delayed reinforcer. The results of this basic study of behavioral economics can be summed up in my words as, if I'm going to have to wait anyways, I might as well wait for the bigger outcome. Flora and Pavlik investigated the effects of reinforcer density on self-control under discrete trial conditions, and what effects a post-reinforcement pause would have on responding across conditions. In this experimental study, the authors used human subjects measuring both impulsive and self-controlled choices each participant made in a simulated activity across the smaller but immediate reinforcer condition, the impulsive condition, and a longer but larger reinforcer condition, in other words, the self-control condition. Within each condition, they also evaluated the effects of a post-reinforcer delay on the subsequent choices. The results indicated that subjects were more impulsive in their responding when the overall density of reinforcement was greater for impulsive responding than for self-control. For example, no post-reinforcement pause. However, they favored the self-control when the post-reinforcement pause was added. The results of this study provide a basis for a correlation between density of reinforcement and impulsive behaviors. Several translational studies have been conducted by different authors on the topics of gambling and addiction in particular. Dixon, Marley, and Jacobs investigated the rate of discounting when pathological gamblers were presented with choices in an actual gambling environment and compared the results to the behavior of non-gamblers. Results showed that gamblers discounted the delay to rewards much more than did the non-gamblers, and the authors related the results to those of other addictive behaviors such as drug addictions. They were also able to show external validity of the results previously gained by placing participants in a more naturalistic environment, which is something that EAB studies of delayed discounting lack. In another study, again, Dixon, this time with Holton, investigated whether conditional discriminations taught after repeated exposure to delayed discounting tasks systematically affected responding, and to what extent such conditional discriminations contributed to past and future discounting among pathological gamblers. Basically, conditional discrimination training was put in place after baseline, where multiple stimuli were trained for various outcomes. Results of the studies indicated that both past and future discounting consistently occurred. However, when the conditional discriminations were trained, overall discounting reduced on both past and future experiences. Conditional discriminations, if taught explicitly as interventions, could provide a useful treatment for pathological gambling or other discounting behaviors such as drug abuse. Substance addiction is a well-documented behavior that has been studied within delayed discounting. A meta-analysis was conducted by McKillop in 2011 that looked at the effects of delayed discounting on addictive behaviors and characterized the pattern of results the research identified. The results indicated that in the majority of the studies, an effect size greater than that was found in the control group for discounting was found, though they did see variations between the different types of addictions they studied. These findings indicate that treatment of addictive behavior should include reliance on the literature of behavioral economics, specifically delayed discounting. So, where does this leave us to study next? The applied relevance of delayed discounting and future directions of this translational research could bring us to look at academic cheating in college students. Specifically, does delayed discounting contribute to the cheating behavior of college students? And can delayed discounting translational research be effective in changing this behavior? In breaking down cheating into the delayed discounting formula just discussed, one could surmise that cheating behavior gains access to the smaller, more immediate reinforcer. For example, the correct answer, an A on a paper, and so forth. Choosing this smaller, more immediate reinforcer over the longer, larger payoff or reinforcer, for example, productive work behavior in a job setting, passing an exam that does not carry the ability to cheat, for example, the BACB International certification exam. Perhaps future research could also look at cheating within certain contexts as discussed in the research by Dixon and Holton. For example, why would students cheat in one class but not in another? Perhaps history of a larger payoff is more likely to produce less discounting. As altering academic behavior carries a potential ethical issue, for example, you don't want to give a student the opportunity to cheat and get actual credits for it, this study would lend itself nicely to the translational research paradigm. Studying the behavior or a correlation to this behavior within the basic research laboratory would eliminate any potential ethical concerns. Once the behavior was studied in the laboratory, one could then apply the findings in a translational study in an ethical way. The options are many with this type of behavior due to the potential positive outcomes that the study of this particular behavior would have. Thank you.